you know, when it's 4 o'clock, we're going live and we teach you so much stuff that you need to know. And today I have a privilege to be with Peter. How are you, Peter?
Abraham, I'm absolutely fantastic. Thanks very much.
Are you? It's springtime. You don't have any
It's
complaints.
springtime, no complaints whatsoever. The weather's absolutely lovely here in Johannesburg. I believe it's raining all over the other parts of the country.
Yeah, just like Cape Town.
That's right, but we're having wonderful weather here. So
Oh.
who can complain?
Good weather. And also we have another surprise for you. Your dad is here, hey?
That's right. So in our
He's watching
technical
right now.
He is. In our technical department, folk, which is behind me, we have our producer, James. We have our sound technicians, Abraham and Wilson. We have John, who's the big boss. And then as well, we also have a special guest back there, and that's my dad. And he's close on 80. So if something goes horrendously wrong, you know, he pushed some button he shouldn't have done. So I'll apologize ahead of time for that.
How does it feel like having your dad watching you? Just like other mindsetters home would be studying and their parents, you know, are with them. How does it feel like teaching while your dad is here?
Well, hopefully he learned something.
Well, otherwise, what are we doing today? What are you going to teach him?
Okay, today, folk, on Friday last week, the Eastern Cape wrote the provincial paper for Mathematical Literacy Paper 2. And so what we thought we'd do today is, our whole topic today is problem solving, and so we thought we would take that past paper from the Eastern Cape that was written on Friday and go through some of those questions. So those of you who are from the Eastern Cape, maybe you can watch, and don't get depressed if you think, I didn't do it like that. Rather learn from it in preparation for the main exam, which you'll be writing in November. And those of you from other provinces who are yet to write your prelim exam, watch this one very carefully. You might get one or two little hints and learn something. And who knows, there may be similar questions in your exam paper. And even though it's only for grade 12, this paper, remember, guys, that you start your grade 12 syllabus in grade 10. Okay? There's certain concepts we're teaching you in grade 10, which you're going to use in grade 12. We use them again in grade 11, and then we use them again in grade 12. So this session, although we're looking at a prelim paper, is actually for grade 10, grade 11, and grade 12 mathematical literacy students.
Thank you so much. And you know what? Maths Lit is just my favorite subject. Let me tell you this, mindsetters. If you'd like to interact with us, ask some questions, and also help other mindsetters on the page, if you see that what Peter is going over is just too simple for you, get over Facebook. Our Facebook link is facebook.com/learnextra. Like the page and join the 52,000 likes that we have, also to help other mindsetters. I'll be posting the links also to the notes, having some exam tips that you need also on the page. Otherwise, follow us on Twitter @learnextra. And lastly, download your notes that are proudly sponsored by Macmillan on learnextra.co.za/live. And a big thank you to Macmillan. Peter, over to you.
She must be exhausted after saying all that, eh?
Not really.
All right.
I'm still young.
What are you saying here? Right, before we get too rude, let's have a look at this. Just incidentally, Abraham's name is Abraham, okay? And if you know anything about biblical things, you know Father Abraham was the father of many nations. So, for you women out there watching, if you're wanting lots of kids, email or fax or
And
BBM
actually, you reminded me, I have a date that I need to give to the mindsetters. So I'll be asking a date to the mindsetters later on.
Okay, sounds interesting.
Yeah.
Folks, let's get on with some mathematical literacy. That's why we're here, so let's go for it. So in today's lesson then, we're going to look at typical exam paper questions. And like I said, we are going to be looking at a paper that came from the Eastern Cape. Okay, so here is question number 1. Anver, who was recently retrenched at his workplace, decided to start his own taxi business. From his former employer, Anver was paid out a lump sum amount of 400,000 Rand. He used some of this money to pay a deposit of 15% on a vehicle to the car dealer. After doing some research, he decided to buy a Toyota Quantum 2.5D/4D 14-seater passenger bus. Okay, and now they give us a little bit of information about this bus. There she is, and they're saying the price of this bus, brand new, is 392,900 Rand. The interest that he's going to be charged is the prime rate plus 1%, and we'll talk about that prime rate thing just now, okay? And he can pay it off in 72 months. Okay, so let's unpack this question. So we have this guy, he's called Anwar. And Anwar goes to work one day, all happy-go-lucky, and he gets to work, and their boss says to him, we need to chat. Now, guys, when you're in a workplace and your boss says to you, we need to chat, that's not good news. My boss does it to me all the time. All right, so says we need to chat. He goes into the boss's office, and the boss says, Anwar, I've got a horrific news for you. Unfortunately, we've got to retrench you. We just don't have enough funds. We don't have enough money. It's just absolutely horrendous. I'm sorry to do this to you, but actually you don't have a job. But the good news is we're not just giving you the boot and telling you to get out. We are going to give you some money. And we're going to pay you a lump sum of 400,000 Rand as an apology for what we've had to do for you. And Anwar looks at this 400,000 Rand and says, yes, this is fantastic, so much money. But he's actually quite a clever guy. And he doesn't just go home and say to his family, I've lost my job, that's it, I'm going to do absolutely nothing. I'm going to go out with this 400,000 Rand, buy a piece of cardboard, write something on it, and stand at the robot and ask people for money. Okay? Or, I'm not going to go off, get a bucket of dirty water and wash Mr. Templeton or Peter, that's me, okay, windscreen every time he comes past the same robot. He says, no, I'm going to take this money and I'm going to do something good with it. I am going to start a taxi business. And that's exactly what he does. So he goes off and he investigates different car companies. And he comes across one particular one. Okay? And believe it or not, we're not allowed to advertise, so I'm not sure how the examiner got through with this. But he goes off to the certain company called Toyota, which we're not allowed to mention on air, and he goes off to them and he says, that's the vehicle I want. How much is it? And the guy says to him, this vehicle is going to cost you, and let's have a look, 392,900 Rand. Okay? If you can't afford to give us that money, what we can do is we can tell you, pay us a deposit and pay some monthly installments. Okay? Now, folk, in real life, no one is really always very nice. Okay? No business person just gives away money. So this company says to him, we will give you the car, you give us a deposit, and then you just pay us back every month a certain amount. And the amount you're going to pay us, because you owe us, we're going to have to charge you a little bit of interest. So you're going to have to give us some extra money because we're being nice to you. Okay? And the interest they're going to charge is something called the prime rate. Let's just find it here. The prime rate plus 1%. Now, what is prime rate? Well, basically, prime rate is a rate that's decided upon by who? Some minister of finance or something, okay? So this money is decided upon. It says, if you borrow money, that's the rate we're going to charge you. That's the average rate we're going to charge you, okay? Now, some banks might come to you and say, ooh, you know what, eh? We don't know you that well, and you don't have a good record of borrowing money. We can't do too much investigation on you. You've had no accounts you've paid off. So you're a bit of a risk. So what we're going to do is we're going to charge you the prime rate, but we're going to add on another 3% or another 2%. So if the prime rate is 8% and we're going to add on 2%, that means the bank's going to charge you 10% for borrowing money from them. Got that? Sometimes, if you're a very good client, they'll say, you know what, we will loan you the money at prime rate minus 2%. In other words, if prime rate's 8%, they're only going to charge me 6%. Gee, that would be very nice if they did it to me. I hope my bank manager's watching, okay? That would be very nice if you did that to me. Okay, cool. Let's carry on. Now, let's read the question. We've unpacked the question. Let's read it now and see what it's all about. It says, calculate the deposit he paid on his purchase. So how much did our vehicle actually cost? Our vehicle cost 392 Rand 900. Okay? Sorry, let's say that again. 392,900 Rand. he's got to pay some deposit. In other words, he can't just take the vehicle and go. This company wants to make sure he's serious about borrowing that vehicle. So they're going to take some money from him. And how much are they going to take? They're going to take 15% of the value of the vehicle. So what we're going to say is this, right, let's find 15% of the 392,900 Rand. Okay, now folk, how are we going to do that? This brain is too small to work that out. So I'm going to go to my calculator. So let's do that here. Let's bring out our calculator, and there she is behind us. Now we're just going to punch in the figures, and we're going to say I've got 392,900, and we're going to multiply that by fraction button 15 over 100. Okay? And then we're going to push equals, and then we're going to get our answer. Now, before I even push equals, let me remind you again. If we're dealing with money, folk, how many decimal places are we going to round off to? It's got to be 2 decimal places. Why? Because the maximum amount of cents we can get in a rand is 99 cents. Okay? We can't get 100 cents in a rand because that makes up a rand. So let's have a look. Let's push equals. And there's our answer there. 58,935. 58,935 Rand. Now you'll notice there was no cents. So this question is kind of easy. We don't have to be tricked by how many cents we've got to pay. So 58,935. So our chap here, what's his name again? Anver. He gets 400,000 Rand. He goes off to this company, says, I want that vehicle. They say, you can have it. Absolutely, just give us 58,935 Rand. And that's what he does. Now, our next question. What percentage of the money he received from his former employee did he use for the deposit? Okay, let's have a look here. Now, we know he's used 58,935 Rand. Out of how much money did his employee give him? He gave him 400,000 Rand. Now, please take note, folks. The question is not saying how much money, okay, or what percentage of the money he received from the cost of the vehicle. It's saying from his former employee. So hopefully, those who wrote this exam and those of you who are watching it for the first time wouldn't have thought, you know what, we're going to put 58,935 over the price of the vehicle. Because the price of the vehicle doesn't even come into this question. We say, what percentage did he put down of the amount he got from his employer? And the amount he got was 400,000. Now, guys, because I see this word percentage, you know and I know, whenever I see percentage, it means times 100. And that's what I'm doing here. Multiply by 100. So out comes my calculator again. Why? Because I don't have the brain capacity to do this in my head. And I'm going to say, I've got 58,935 over 400,000. Okay? Times 100 equals, and I get a weird answer. Can you see that on your screen? 11787 over 800. So if I went to someone and said, what percentage, and you gave me an answer of 11,787 over 800, it would mean nothing to me. So I'm going to push this S to D button on my calculator, and there it gives it to me. And it says it's 14,73375%. Now let's just have a look at our question. In fact, will you remember this? I'll remember the 14, Abraham. You remember 73375. Okay?
Okay.
So here we go. So it's 14, comma, and you are going to say?
373375.
73375. Okay. 73375. Right. Percent. Now, folks, when I get an answer like that. That's a huge answer. I know when I get a comma, something, 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 chances are I've got to round it off. So let's check the question and see if the question asks me how many decimal places. So I read the question. Nowhere in the question does it tell me how many decimal places I've got to round to. So what am I going to do? I'm going to round it off to 2 decimal places. Why? Because if I look at the front cover of my exam sheet, it would say, where necessary, round off to 2 decimal places. Okay, so we're going to therefore say it's 14,73%. Sure, we've covered a lot of work already, okay? And it's time for our first break.
Yeah, indeed. But talking about a break, let me just give out this date to the mindsetters. If you are a matriculant that is watching the show, I'm not asking you out to a matric dance, but I'm asking you to join us for the spring school, which is starting on the 23rd to the 27th of September, right here on 319. I'll be giving you more details on our Facebook page because you don't want to miss out on this date. I'll be there. Peter will be there also.
I'll be there.
So we have a date. See you after the break. Welcome back, Mindsetters. I can see on the page we have Benson Mbulo J. He's always been, he's just been active this whole week. He's learning with us. If you're also watching Mindsetters, make sure that you let me know on the page because we'd love to chat with you. But I know that I asked for a date to the matriculants, but I should be fair. I think I should involve everyone.
Right.
Don't you think so?
I think so.
All right. For everyone, here's what you need to do. Tomorrow is the last day for the Stars in Education Awards for you to nominate your teacher. If you think you've got a best teacher or your favorite teacher whom you think deserves an award, make sure that you nominate them for the Stars in Education Awards. The application form can be found on www.ed.org.za/teach. The link will be on the Facebook page. So make sure that you nominate all your teachers because they deserve to be acknowledged. Peter, over to you.
Thanks very much. Okay, so our problem is we have this guy called Anver. He's gone off and he's bought this taxi. Okay, and that just reminded me about a story. The other day, my car broke down. And so I had a bit of a problem. I had to get somewhere, and I had no way of getting it. So I waved down a taxi, and I got into this taxi, okay? And there was no one. It was just the taxi driver and me. And holy hell, I tell you what, guys, it was an absolute nightmare. We went over the pavement, round the trees, under the trees. And I was just like, oh my word, I'm not going to get through this, okay? We get to a red light, all right? And he goes, we get to a red light. He goes straight through it. And I'm like, this is it, we're going to die here. So eventually I said to him, whoa, what are you doing going through a red light? He says, hey, listen, bro. Me and my brother, we've been driving for 25 years now. We never stop at a red light. We just go straight through.
Sure.
So I'm like, oh my goodness, okay, here we go. So we carry on driving over a pavement, round a tree, under a bridge, everything, okay? Eventually we get to a green light and he slams brakes and stops. And I'm like, what are you doing stopping at the green light? He says, no, I don't know if my brother's coming through the other red light. Which I thought was quite a good story.
Oh, well.
All right, folks, but we're getting sidetracked again, so let's go through this. So he goes off, he buys this bus at 392,900 Rand. He sees that the deposit that's got to be paid is 58,935. And you'll remember we calculated that just before the break. Now, let's read this question. After paying the deposit for the vehicle, he invested the balance for the same period over which he'll pay for the vehicle. The best offer he could get was this. 8.75, let's just get a pen we can all see, 8.75% interest per annum compounded half yearly. Calculate how much his investment will be worth at the end of that period. And then they give us this formula. And the formula they give us is A is equal to P bracket 1 plus R close bracket to the power of N. Now, listen carefully, folk. Okay, this happened in a prelims that some of my boys wrote. They get given a formula, and then some boys try and answer that question without using the formula. Now, guys, there's no way an examiner is going to give you a formula unless you are supposed to use it. So if I get given a formula, and here's the one I'm given, I've got to say to myself, I must use this formula. Because if I don't use this formula, either the examiner has gone slightly off his rocker, or I am making a mistake. And guys, the chances are, if you're not using the formula given to you, you're probably the one making the mistake. So let's use this formula. So we've got A is equal to P, bracket, 1 plus I to the power of N. Now, how much money is Anwar going to actually put into the bank? So he's got his 400,000 Rand from his boss, okay? Of that 400,000, he takes out, let's find it, here it is, 58,935 Rand, and gives it to the car company as a deposit for his bus. The rest of the money he's going to put into this bank. So how much is he putting into the bank? Well, that means this, that of this p-value is actually the 400,000 Rand that he got minus the deposit. And what was that deposit again? 58,935. 58,935. So how much money is he putting in the bank? Well, let's let the calculator do that work. All right. All right, and of course the calculator is now covering the figures, so we'll just move the calculator. 400,000 minus the 58,935 Rand, which now gives us 341,065 Rand, okay? So it's 341,065 Rand. Do we understand that, folks? So he hasn't taken the whole 400 Rand and put it in the bank, right? That's important. And that was a nice kind of trick thrown into there. So, equals, P is 341,065 Rand. 1 plus. Now, what is I? I is the investment rate. Now, what investment rate was he given? He was given 8.75%. Now that means, and let's do this here, was it 75 or 5? Yeah, 8.75%. What is percent? Percent is over 100. And so, folk, when I do that in my calculator as well, I'm going to land up with 8.75 over 100, which makes my I equal to 0.0875. So I've got an interest here now of 0.0875. And I am now just going to try and rub some of this out here. So I've got some more space. Here we go. And let's find our pen again. Okay, 0.0875. Right. But here's the thing. He's giving him, or the bank is giving him 8.75%, all right, every 6 months. Got that? Okay. So every 6 months, or every year rather, he's getting 0.875%, but they're going to do the calculation every 6 months. In other words, how many times a year are they doing the calculation? They're doing the calculation twice a year. Now, guys, if I put money in a bank, and the bank manager says to me, we'll give you, and I'm going to make up another figure, we'll give you 10% a year. And after 6 months, I go to the bank and say, I want my money. Hey, where's my 10%? The bank manager is going to say, hey, we had an agreement. And our agreement was this, that if you keep the money in for a year, we'll give you the 10%. But because you're only keeping it in for 6 months, we're going to give you half of that 10%. Okay? So in the same way here, we are calculating this money half yearly. So when we do the calculation, we can't use 8.75%, but we've got to use half of that. So we're going to take this figure of 0,0875 and divide it by 2. Now, how many years are we investing that money for? The question said we're investing that money for the same period that we're paying the car off. How long are we paying that car off? I think it was 72 months. Okay, there it is. Now guys, 72 months is how many years? Well, we take 72, we divide it by 12, and we land up with 6. So it's going to take him 6 years to pay off the car. At the same time, he's investing his money for 6 years. So let's go back to our calculation. So the N is for 6 years. But he's not doing the calculation once a year. They are checking the interest or adding on interest twice a year. Because the question said quite clearly half yearly. So half a year comes, we do the calculation. The next half a year comes, we do the calculation. So how many times a year are we doing this calculation? We're doing it twice a year. So not are we doing it 6 times, we are actually going to land up doing it 12 times. So we're going to calculate our interest 12 times. There's 6 years, doing it twice a year gives us the 12. Okay, now that we have all of that, folks, now it's quite simple. Why is it simple? Because we're going to get out our calculator and we're going to punch in the figures. So let's do that quickly. Right. So out comes our calculator. Now I'm going to move the calculator back here. I can just imagine our poor producer at the back trying to find the calculator. But there it is. Okay. So we've got 341,065 Rand, bracket, 1 plus fraction button. We've got 0.0875 over 2, close that bracket, to the power of 12. Okay. Let me interrupt myself here, because if I don't, my wife does, so I like to get a chance as well. Okay. Folk, in your paper once, you get basic calculator work given to you. Okay? You've got to know how to use that calculator if you're coming to get a question that's behind, or will be able to answer a question like the one that's behind me. Because it's quite complicated. And unless you are used to that calculator, it's quite a tough problem to solve. Okay? It's like driving. The first time you try and drive, it's a freaking nightmare. Okay? You stall the car, you smash into the pavement, people hoot at you, you drive like 30 k's an hour and think you're going 160, you're so nervous. No? But eventually you get used to it. So like me now, I can just get in my car and off I go. I don't have to focus and concentrate. Why? Because I've been practicing my driving for more than 20 years, 25 odd years. Jeez, that makes me sound old, eh?
Yeah.
How old are you, Abraham?
I'm only 22.
You're only 22, so I was driving before you were born. Sure. Yes, that's scary. Okay.
So embarrassed.
Sorry?
Just kidding. Your age.
Right. So we are practice our driving. Because we practice driving, I know how to drive. The only time that's never happened was with my mother-in-law. She's been driving for 60 years, and oh my word, you just don't want to get in a car with her. Okay, so let's look at that. We pushed that. We now push equals, and there's my answer. 570,157 Rand. So it's 570,157 Rand. And now let's look at this figure. We've got a figure on our screen, 0.7296. Now, chaps, that's a problem. And why is that a problem? Because I'm dealing with money. And when I deal with money, I've got around to 2 decimal places. Because the maximum I can get is 99 cents in a rand. So, what am I going to do with this 7296? I'm going to round the 7 to 73. So, comma, 7, 3. So that's the amount of money that I'm actually going to get out, or Anva's going to get out after the 6 years. Got that? Let's move on to our next question. Incidentally, are there any questions from viewers, Edmund?
So far, no question.
No questions.
Just comments.
Guys, if you got questions, please ask us. That's why we're here. Eh? We're here to help you. Right. So if you've got a problem or you got a question or you didn't quite understand something I did here, please ask. And you can do it. How can they do it?
Here's
again?
a question that just came through from Mukatla.
Yeah.
It says, he says, I found myself in a difficult part of the section. When you subtract 58,958 from that 400,000,
Right.
why didn't you take the whole 400,000?
Okay. Because we weren't depositing. Who is it, sorry?
Mukatla.
Muklakla. Okay.
Mukatla.
So what? Yeah, that's what I
Steve-O,
said.
just call him Steve-O.
Steve-O. Right, Steve-O, thanks for writing it. Now, if you remember correctly, what we said is the reason we can't take that whole 400,000 and put it into the bank is because we took some of that money and we gave it over to the car company as a deposit for our vehicle. All right? I hope that answers your question. Another question some of you viewers might have is this. Hey, if the bus cost 392,000 and he got 400,000, why didn't he just pay for the bus in cash? And that way, he would have still had like 7,000 or 8,000 rand left, but he would have paid off the bus. Well, maybe Anva's being a little bit careful and saying, you know what, I need to keep some money aside just in case there's a problem. What happens if the bus breaks down and I've got no money coming in? How am I going to pay my bills? What happens if the bus breaks down and I've got to pay to fix up that bus? So I think he's kind of clever doing that. So he's taken that 400,000, paid the 15% deposit, and the rest of the money he then invested. I hope that answered your question. And I think
hope
it's
so
time
too.
for a break.
Yes, it is. Mindsetters, we'll take a short break, but don't go anywhere. We'll see you after this. Welcome back, Mindsetters. I can see that a lot of you are on the page. If you haven't got that time to get on our page, make sure that you also follow us on Twitter so you have an alternative. But make sure that you do download the notes. We have posted the link on our Facebook page so that when Peter's going over the questions, you also have the questions. As I have posted them, download them. They're for free, proudly sponsored by Macmillan. Peter?
Right, folk, let's get going because this is our last session. I can't believe how time goes past
Time is
so
flying.
quickly. Okay, and unfortunately, we only got 1 hour of maths lit a week at the moment, so let's keep going. Okay, so now, what happens, Zanva comes along, he pays a deposit for the bus, that's fantastic, but now we've got to think, and we've got to understand that besides the fact that he's paid that deposit, he's got to pay the rest of the amount that he still owes. So he's now got to start putting money or giving the financial company who loaned him the money a little payment every month. Now let's look at this question. When he bought the vehicle, the prime rate was 8.5%. Calculate how much Anva will pay for the vehicle at the end of the period. All right, so we get given a formula. And you know my rule. When you're given a formula, use the formula. Okay, so here we go. How much money does he still owe for the vehicle? Now we've got to do a bit of a calculation. Okay, so the calculation is this. That the cost of the vehicle was 392,900 Rand. He paid the deposit, and if I remember correctly, and we just got to go back and find this, the deposit was 58,935. So 58,935. So how much does he still owe on the vehicle? Okay, so 392,900 was the cost of the vehicle. Anva paid 58,935 equals 333,965 Rand. Okay? So it's 333 and what's it? 965. 965 Rand is what he still owes for that vehicle. So this amount of P is going to be 33,000. Okay, sorry, 333,000 22,965 rand. Right, 1 plus. Now, how many years has he got to pay that vehicle off? Do you remember we did it before the ad break? We said he's got to pay it off 72 months. And 72 months divided by 12 months in a year gave me 6 years. So 6 dot, what's dot mean? It means times, eh? Times the interest rate. Now, folk, let's look at this. The interest rate, we are told, is the prime rate was 8.5%, but he has to pay prime plus 1%. In other words, the interest is 8.5% plus the 1%, which is going to give me 9.5%. And percent means over 100. So we're going to say 9.5 over 100, and our calculator will give us 0.095. We're going to slap that in here, 0.095. Okay, let's make sure we put everything in. We put in our p-value, our n-value, our r-value, and now all we need to do is take that and punch all that information into our calculator. So let's do it. We've got 3, 3, 3, 9, 6, 5, open bracket, 1 plus 6 times, and remember we had it here, 0.095, okay? 0.095, okay? Equals, and folk, there's our answer, 524,325 rand and 5 cents. Abraham, I'm going to ask you to write that down because I'm going to need that figure later on. Okay,
cool.
So there it is, 524,325 and 5 cents. Okay, so let me write this answer down here as well. What was it again? Let's check on you.
It's 500,243.25.
543.25.
25.
No, there's something
comma
wrong there.
15. It's 5243.
5243. Okay, 25 comma
15.
15. Okay. So, folk, that's how much money Anvil's going to pay for that vehicle. But there's something missing. What else did he pay for that vehicle? Do you remember, not only has he paid this amount every month for the 72 months, but he's also paid that deposit. So let's add that deposit. And that deposit, do you remember correctly, we've written it up here, was 58,935 rand. So now we can say, well, from our calculator, there's the answer. We're going to add, what are we adding? 58,935. 58,935 equals, Ibrahim, you're going to have to write this one down for me again as well, okay? 583,260 rand and 5 cents. Got it?
Yes.
Okay? So it's 583,260
260.5 cents.
05 cents. Okay. That's what that vehicle actually cost Anvil over the 6 years. But how much did he pay for the vehicle? He didn't pay so much. The vehicle didn't cost that much, rather it only cost 392,900. Okay, let's go on to our next question. Our next question says this. The salesman told Anva that the percentage he'll pay on the interest is less than 40%. Now, what interest did he pay on that vehicle? Okay. So now we've got to go back to the interest. Do you remember that first figure you wrote down?
Yes.
Right, what was it?
It was 5243.
5243.
25,15.
Okay, so in other words, 524,325 rand 15. But folk, that wasn't all interest, eh? No, because the vehicle actually only cost him, and we had it here, 392,900. 392,900 rand. Okay. So that's the amount of interest he paid. Okay? So let's calculate that. So we're going to take out our calculator and say, right, we have got, let's clear it, 524,325 Rand and 15 cents, minus the cost of the vehicle, which was 392,500. Was it 500? No, I lied, it was 900. Equals, and so it's, will you write that one down for me as well, Ibrahim? 131,131,425.15. Okay? So it's 131,425,
425, comma 15.
comma 15. That's the amount of interest in money that Anvis paid for that vehicle. But we want to know, is the percentage of interest over what the car cost more than 40%? What did the car cost me? It cost me 392,900 Rand. And because we want it as a percentage, we're going to multiply it by 100. So let's do that. Out comes our calculator again. And we are going to say, I've got fraction button, 131,425 Rand and 15 cents, all over 392,900. We're going to multiply that by 100 because we want to know, is it more than 40%? So we have to get it as a percent. Equals, and we land up now with 33,45 something, something, something. Now, it's not important to round that. All we need to see is that it's less than 40%. So we can say, therefore, and what's the question? Show by means of calculation whether the statement is true. Therefore, the statement is true. Happy? Okay, let's move on.
Here's a question, Peter.
Questions come up. Yeah.
Sibonga on the previous question before the one that we just did.
Okay.
Sibonga says, why did you add the deposit at the end?
All right. The question was, let's have a look at the question. Calculate how much Anva will pay for the vehicle at the end of the period. So not only has he paid a little bit back every single month, okay, but remember the vehicle also cost him that deposit amount. And so that's why we've said, well, that's what it's cost him, okay, 524,325 Rand and 15 cents after the 72 months. But that's not only what it cost him. Remember, he also had to pay that deposit. And so that's why we've added the two. I hope that answers your question.
I hope so too.
Okay, right, let's go on now. And let's have a look at our next question. Our next question says this. Besides his monthly installment on the vehicle, Anvis still has to pay for service and administration fees for the duration of the period, which will be charged against his monthly account. Calculate the monthly service and admin fee if his monthly installment now totals so much. Right, the first thing we need to realize is this. We've already calculated what he paid over those 72 months, excluding the deposit, okay? Because he's not paying that every month, he's paid that. So how much is he paying every month? Now, have you got the figure for me again, what he paid before we added that 58,000?
Before it was 52,
Yeah,
4325,
right.
comma 15.
Comma 15. Do you remember we calculated that? We calculated that figure saying how much would he have to pay over the 72 months, ignoring the deposit that was paid. Now, folk, if he's paid that amount after 72 months, it's easy to calculate how much he's paid every month. We're just going to take that figure and divide it by 72. So let's take that and divide it by 72. And we're not going to do it. Our calculator is going to do it for us. So we've got 524,325 Rand, 0.15 cents. We're going to divide it now by the 72 months, and it works out that he's going to pay, and again, I'm going to need your help here, Ibrahim, 7,282 Rand a month 29 cents. Do you see how we got to round off that 29375? So it's 7,282 Rand, 29 cents. Okay? 7,282 Rand and 29 cents. That's how much the car is costing him every month. But we're now told, okay, he goes to pay that amount of money, and the bank guy says to him, hey, that's not what you owe us, pal. You actually owe us 7,391 Rand, 29 cents. And Andrew says, why do I owe you so much? And he says, because, or the bank says, because there's a service and admin fee, okay? We're not just lending you money for no reason. Not only are we charging you interest, but we're also going to charge you an admin fee. How horrible is that, eh? Okay, so if we've got to pay the bank 7,391 Rand and 29 cents, but it's only, the car only costs us 7,282 Rand 29 cents, we can now work out what that admin fee is. Let's do it. So I'm going to clear my calculator. I'm going to say I've got 7,391 Rand and 29 cents. I'm going to subtract what the vehicle's actual payment is, which is 7,282 Rand and 29 cents. We push equals, and there it gives it to us 109 Rand. So that's what the admin fee is actually going to land up costing.
Okay, here's a question.
Yeah, tell me about it.
Also, talking about that 500,024.
Yeah, 524,325 Rand.
Kobe Emmanuel says, is it the money after 6 years?
Yeah, because remember, it was amount after 72 months. Okay, remember we did that calculation. Let's go back and look for it. Okay, let's just find it quickly. I don't think it was on this one. No, I think it was on the previous page. Do you remember? Here it was here. We said we owed the bank 333,965. Why? Because we already paid the deposit. So the bank, we don't need to borrow that money from the bank. It was 1 plus. It was for 6 years because it was 72 months. The interest rate was 1% above prime. And prime was 8.5%. So this is going to be 9.5%, which is 0.095. Okay? We then worked it out, and it then worked out that after the 6 years, our monthly payments will add up to 524,325. Okay? I'm not paying the deposit every month because that's been paid. And that's why I got this figure of 524,000. Okay? That's where it actually came from. All right? And then we divided it by 72. Why by 72? Because there are 72 months and 6 years. After dividing it, we got that figure. We want to go to the bank and pay it. The bank says, no, you can't. You owe us a little bit extra. We're actually charging you an extra 109 Rand a month just for admin fees. Shit, which is horrible. So guys, think twice before you just take loans. Eh? Okay.
What a great lesson.
Absolutely. Any other questions there, Abraham?
No question.
Well, you know, Abraham, time's coming up. I see we've only got about 50 seconds left. Now 49, now 48, now 47. You get the idea. So I think all we can do is just kind of wrap up. From me, I want to thank our producer out there, James. We've got to thank Abraham as well as... Wilson, that's right. Sorry, Wilson. Who's back there doing all the work. Thanks to our big boss, John. And guys, from me...
And Pops.
And?
Pops.
Oh, yeah, and my dad for pushing a button and irritating the producer, I think. Guys, from me, that's it. Thanks very much, Ibrahim. Over to you.
Thank you so much. What a great show. I really learned a lot from you, Peter. Otherwise, Mindsetters, that's where we ended today. Thank you for taking your time and tuning in, learning with us, and also for participating on Facebook. We love you so much. And a big thank you to Macmillan for making sure that we have the notes that we have. They're available all for free, and the notes are downloadable. On the Facebook page, there's a link also if you missed it out. But otherwise, peace.